The crossover is off and running. We're in the zone meets open mic. Afternoons, mornings blended into one. Mike, how you living?
Don't sing it, bring it.
Oh, I'm bringing it. So I'm going to get us started because I had a chat with Shaquem Griffin entering the UCF Hall of Fame in a few days.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him about the current state of the UCF program, and he had some quotes that I thought were pretty eye-opening.
Okay.
Especially when you consider that Shaquem Griffin is one of the world's most positive human beings. You would agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
One of
okay.
UCF's most beloved players.
So and I would say inarguably the greatest leader the program has ever had as a player.
Yeah. I can't argue with that.
Okay, so I'm going to read you 3 quotes, and you're just going to react to them. Okay, so he said, quote, "The culture is a little lost right now. Quote, it's tough to watch. The only time they watch film is when the coaches tell them to," talking about the players. He said, "You want to create an all-star team, but if you aren't creating an all-star environment, what kind of team are you going to have?" How do you respond to that?
I would respond to that. Shaquem Griffin, even though he's not that old and didn't play that many years ago, and I love the guy, but he sounds like the old guy on the lawn. Back when I played, we had a culture in the locker room. Back when I played, we cared about team. It was about the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back of the jersey. Well, back when you played, Shaquem, and again, love the guy, but there wasn't pay for play back then. Players weren't transferring willy-nilly year in, year out. The fact of the matter is, he's right. There is not as much loyalty to the team anymore. These guys who come in, you think KJ Jefferson gives a flying flip about the tradition of UCF? You think these one-year portal guys are invested in the program? No, they're here for one reason. A, because they weren't playing enough at their old school and they're here to make a name for themselves, or B, they're getting paid. So I agree with Kareem Griffin, but I don't think UCF is that much different than other programs out there.
Okay, but I don't know. I feel like we're overusing this. These wayward college kids that just have no loyalty to anything because now they're getting paid. What's the difference between them and professional athletes? Trevor Lawrence gets paid a ton of money from the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's not like he's bleeding black and teal. A leader is a leader. Whether you love the program that you go to and you're obsessed with the college, or you're just there to play a position like Cam Ward is in Miami, you're either a leader of men or you're not. And I think the bigger problem here that Shaquem is pointing out is whether these guys got recruited originally out of high school by UCF or came here later on, they didn't recruit leaders of men inside of the program. And that seems to be the problem. They don't have people in the locker room that are holding their other teammates accountable. That quote where he says, and he said this was after a conversation he had with players. This wasn't an opinion of his. They're only watching film when the coaches tell them to. Yeah. These guys don't care.
Yeah.
Well, so when I hear UCF fans saying I'm not going to games, I can't be upset at them, because if the players don't care, why should you?
Yeah. And I would be interested in knowing when did he talk to these players? Was it in the midst of this 5-game losing streak, or did they care when they were 3-0, even though they played a bunch of Humpty Dumptys?
Well, you don't need to watch film against Sam Houston.
I'm again, when you're losing and fans are the same way. When you're losing and you've lost 5 in a row and all your preseason goals are gone, then you're probably not as invested. You're probably not going to watch film. There are a lot of fans who aren't showing up at the games now because they think the season's over, because they're not going to go to the Big 12 championship game and get to the college football playoffs. So again, I think it's a combination. Obviously, UCF is in a downward spiral right now, which brings me to my question. I wrote a column earlier this week in the Orlando Sentinel. I think if the bottom continues to fall out and UCF finishes the season with another 4 losses and finishes 3-9, or they finish 4-8, I still think Gus Malzahn should be allowed to come back next year and try to fix it. Your thoughts?
If I can throw finances out the window, I would say absolutely not. If this program continues to circle the drain, I think you've got to reclaim the momentum that you're losing from the 2017, 2018 teams that went undefeated in the regular season. It feels like I see you rolling your eyes over there, but you're losing that momentum, and that's not me saying I'm not delusional enough.
Yeah, because you're not the American anymore.
This team shouldn't be.
That's
going
how
undefeated.
You lost the momentum.
This team's non-competitive in most of their games. Colorado blew them out. Florida dominated them. They were competitive against Iowa State. BYU did whatever they wanted, trick plays and all against UCF. This team is the coaching is unimaginative. You don't have leaders. That's a player problem, but you're the ones that are bringing in the players, and you're starting to lose the fans. The issue is it's so expensive for UCF to move off of Gus Malzahn, and this is not a program that's flushed with cash. So if I'm thinking about this logically, then yeah, they should probably give him another year. But no, I didn't think Gus was a good hire to begin with, and all that has played out is that
I thought he was.
So why would I move off of that?
That's where we differ on that. But yeah, okay.
I just don't think he was he wasn't the right hire for this program. It's not like I don't think Gus can't coach. I don't think he was the right guy for here. UCF should always be in the market for the guy that is on the come up in his career, not the guy that's on the downturn looking to have some reclamation project or retire here. That should never be the guy that UCF hires.
So you want the guy who's going to be 2 and out? You want the guy who's going to be 2 and out like Scott Frost or Josh Heupel?
It worked out pretty well.
Well, yeah.
I had the same conversation with Tyler. He's like, I don't want a guy that's going to, and he's not a Gus guy, but we're talking about possible replacements if it does go that way. And he's like, I don't want a guy that's just going to leave in a couple of years. Like if somebody leaves in a couple of years, it's because they crushed it. Let that be your problem, that you went undefeated and you lost your coach. My last one for you is a two-parter. One, do you give Florida any chance against the Bulldogs? And how upset should we be that the Florida-Georgia game is not coming to Orlando in 2026 or 2027?
Well, you knew it wasn't going to be here in 2026. That's Georgia's home game. That was going to go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Anyway, but 2027, yeah, I think we should be disappointed. I'm not surprised, though. Let's face it. We don't even know what our stadium's going to look like in 2027. Now, everybody says it's going to be done, but, Tampa has a ready-made NFL stadium right there. They had their bid ready to go. And what did we have to show them? A bunch of artistic renderings of what the renovated Camping World Stadium is going to look like. I think our stadium not being renovated yet had something to do with it. And Tampa, Jacksonville in the future, when their stadium's renovated, that's good. We're going to have to compete against some nice stadiums to get these events. So I'm not shocked, but yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I still hope we get the Jaguars, by the way. We'll see if that happens in 2027.
That would be nice.
What was the other question? Yeah, I think Florida has a shot. They're 16.5-point underdogs, but Florida clobbered Kentucky. Georgia struggled against Kentucky. Georgia lost to Alabama, which has 2 SEC losses. Georgia struggled against Mississippi State until the third quarter. Florida manhandled Mississippi State
for the most part.
In today's college football, with what we're seeing, yes, I don't think there's gonna be the dominant. Georgia's not as dominant as they've been in the past, so I think the Gators have a shot, a puncher's chance, if you will.
Yeah, I would feel a lot more confident if Georgia didn't roll up on Texas and send them right back to the Big 12. It felt like they kind of found their confidence again. I tend to agree with you, but I've been overly positive on Florida since the start of the season, and they've kind of been around what I thought they would be. But Georgia still has this tendency the last few years to just make a comedy show out of that neutral site game.
All right, Mr. Dolphins fan, last question. If the Dolphins lose to the Bills on Sunday, they'll be 2-6. They're not going anywhere if they're 2-6. NFL trade deadline is Tuesday. I'll ask you the question. Should they trade Tyreek Hill then and start gathering assets for the future?
Got to do it. It's unfortunate. Probably not going to win this weekend. I'll be shocked if the next time you and I talk, we're talking about how Miami won up in Buffalo. Josh Allen's 11-2 against the Dolphins in his career, and it's even worse when it's up in New York. So I don't see that happening as far as the Dolphins turning this thing around. It's unfortunate because their schedule after this is pretty easy, relatively speaking, in the NFL, but they lose this one and you can count them out. And at that point, yeah, you got to look ahead to next year, shed some of those older players that are on big contracts. Tyreek Hill's one of them. I think Jalen Ramsey should be in that conversation as well. Bradley Chubb is still taking up space on your salary cap. Whoever you can dump off. I do feel like in one game back, even in a loss, I feel as good about Tua today as I ever have. Will you see the drop off from him to the other bums that they had playing that position? It makes you appreciate Tua a little bit. So,
or it makes you say, why did they have these other bums as his backup?
Well, they definitely need to invest in a better backup quarterback because we know the issue with Tua, it's now becoming the bigger issue with Tua than anything on the field is his concussions. We used to question both, but I think Tua is a good enough quarterback to get you by and win games. And the offense is fun. The Dolphins are fun to watch. The Dolphins over the course of my life have not always been a fun watch, but right now they are. Tyreek Hill, if they lose, I'm with you. Tyreek Hill probably going to have to find somewhere else to play. The crossover is over.